So right off the bat, I always like to change my preferences in InDesign. Now, preferences give you specific functionalities. They allow you to customize the application. They allow you to kind of manage your workflow and do things in a more efficient and easier way. Now, I've already set mine up, so you're going to see some things that you'll just have to match when you open up your InDesign. And I suggest that we open up the preferences before we have any actual file open. Now, the difference between opening up your preferences and changing the preferences when you don't have a file open is that the preferences will be saved universally, meaning that now they will be able to be used for every file that you open, as opposed to if I opened up a file and then changed my preferences after file has been opened, and it will only save those preferences for that specific file. So how we do this in in PC compared to Mac is just slightly different. I'm pretty sure on the PC it's under the file and it's at the very bottom here, and on the Mac it's under just the InDesign text there. If you forget where it is, it's always really simple just to go Command or Control K to access your preference pop-up window. Now, there is a lot of different things that we can manipulate here, and it can get really, really nerdy, really, really fast. So I would just suggest that you kind of just click through these and kind of see what they do or see what they say. And there's really only 2 or 3 that we really have to worry about at this point. There's something called units of increments. That is going to be really, really helpful for you. And by default, you might notice that yours is set to picas. I'm not sure if anybody knows what a pica is. I used to. I've kind of forgotten. It is a unit of measurement used by typographers and layout and graphic designers, maybe much more commonly about 100 to 50 years ago. We rarely use it these days, or if you're not in like a really kind of hardcore publishing setting, it's not something that's used very often. So I like to set mine horizontal and my vertical unit increments, ruler units to inches. Now, if you come from a country or you're much more comfortable with centimeters, that's absolutely fine as well. But whatever you're comfortable with, inches I would suggest, or centimeters. And just make sure this one, the origin doesn't matter at this point, but just make sure the horizontal and the vertical is set to either inches or centimeters. There's another thing called kerning and tracking. Now, the default is 20, which when we start kind of doing more advanced typography, this is actually going to become quite important to us. So the default is 20, and it's basically it's when we start using the command and the left, right, and up arrows for setting typography. When we do that, it's going to be moving the type or the kerning or the spaces between the letters, and it's going to be spacing them in units of 20, which is actually quite severe and quite harsh. And so it will make, there will be large adjustments as opposed to these fine tunings that I like to do, and we will eventually be doing in the typography class. So at this point, I like to change that to just the number 1. And then when we go into display performance, by default, this Greek below will be 7. Greeking is, I can show you this. So if I click 7, keep it to the default, and I'm just going to do a new file very quickly here and kind of show you what Greeking is. So Greeking is, depending on how big your screen is or what the monitor size of you're using. I'm just going to fill this with some placeholder text, and I'm going to set it to something below 7 points, so 6 point. And you'll see here when I set it to something below 7 points, I get this Greeking, which is basically these gray bars. Now I don't, and so when I zoom in, obviously you can see the text. When I zoom out, it starts to Greek. I personally do not enjoy looking at Greeking, so I always change that to where is it, display performance, to 2 points, because personally I never design anything using type smaller than 2 points, so I think that's a good unit. If you feel like 4, maybe 4 point or something a bit bigger is fine. It doesn't really matter. I mean, and on the weird case, there are the off chance that you might use 2 point, which nobody could read, you could change it to 1 possibly. But the rest of these we don't have to worry about. So just make sure that you choose, you choose, change the horizontal and the vertical to inches or centimeters. The rest of this we don't, I'm just clicking on my down arrows to scroll through these different options right now. So then in the display performance, that Greek type, and those are really the main ones that I think are really beneficial and help you with your overall workflow.